Hi, I'm Katie. Welcome back to NACN's podcast, and today I'm here with,
I'm Charlotte.
and we're here with Debera Nelson, and she's going to introduce herself.
Yes, I'm Debera Nelson. I'm from Impossible Mental Health, which when I say it, you'll go, why, that's really stupid name for a company. But when you see it written out, the IM is stroked out and it means that everything is possible. And I run it's a private cognitive behavioural therapy practice. And so therefore I'm a cognitive behavioural psychotherapist, which is a mouthful. Which is why I do CBT, because it's much easier to say than cognitive behavioural therapy. And my background is in mental health nursing. So I was a mental health nurse for in or around 20 years. I'm not going to give away my age.
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You can start.
So like, I know you told us like your titles and everything, but what do you do?
Okay.
Like, if you get what I mean, like.
So if you ask my children, one of them will tell you that I make people cry for a living.
Real.
The other one will say that I'm a disaster capitalist. So I'm profiting from other people's misery. And I haven't asked the other one because I'm afraid of what he'll say. Basically I see people who have difficulties with their mental health. And obviously that is, like when I started in nursing, it was a real kind of stigma. We didn't talk about it. But there were a couple of things that went on at the time that mental health was kind of covered with. So maybe we had the troubles where people had purpose, they had sense of community, they came together and they were able to like have a united purpose. But as that kind of left us, which is a good thing, people started to find that they didn't really have a purpose and started to feel a little bit lost. And often we'll see that if you look back in research, you see that suicide rates rose in comparison to that. So when I started nursing, I did like every other nurse. I went into the wards and I quite quickly got frustrated. Because people were going into hospital, they were staying in hospital for long periods of time, but nobody was doing anything different apart from saying, here's a tablet. How about that? Take that tablet, that will help you. So when I was in the wards, I was like, so there must be something different, because these people, I don't know if you've heard the expression of a revolving door. So it's like going in one bit and sort of going round and coming back in again.
Oh, yeah.
So people were going into hospital, they were coming back out again, and quite quickly, a few weeks later or months, they were back in, and they're back in for the same length of time or longer. And it was just soul destroying to watch. So I started to get interested in CBT because, in a nutshell, if we were drawing a triangle, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing in the air here, okay, because I've got an imaginary board. But like if we put like think at one point of it, feel it another, and do it another, if we drew a line between those, doesn't matter where you come into that, we can change the other two things. So primarily, when you come to CBT or anybody comes to see me, I'm looking at how you feeling. Like, there's very few people that ever rock up to us and go, I'm feeling great. Because they don't genuinely. And then I'm going, okay, so what are you doing and how's that impacting how you're thinking? So when you go to see the Barbie movie, you feel really good, you're really excited, you start to think happy thoughts like, this could be good, and therefore you go to the cinema and but if you were someone who had maybe social anxiety, you might want and be excited to go and see the Barbie movie, but actually you might feel really nervous and worried and not be able to go then as a result. So I work out with people, what are you doing, how are you thinking, and how's that, and sometimes I use the expression, how's that working for you, and we work out new ways and new skills of like kind of helping people get better.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Do you want to ask a question, Charlotte?
I'm like trying to think of a good question to ask you. Like, okay, like what interests you about it, about your career?
There's never, there's never 2 days the same. Like I couldn't, when I'm doing this morning to work, this is the prime example. Like I've seen a couple of clients and I'm coming here to do this. It's exciting. There's always something different. Everybody's story is different. And I feel really honoured that people tell me their stories, and that I get to be part of their story for a short time. So I love that there's constant change, I suppose. I love that I will never meet two people exactly the same, with exactly the same problem. So when people say to me, have you ever seen someone like me before? Like I can say, well, I've seen someone who has some difficulties that you're describing, but I've never seen someone exactly like you because everybody is completely different, and I love that. I love how unique it is as well.
Where did you go to school, like for your studies?
I'm a real country girl. So originally I went to Down High in Downpatrick, far away. My husband has renamed it Accordion Academy because once in a music thing somebody played an accordion, so therefore it must be named that.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So not like his good city school. And so I went there, and then I actually left in what would be year 13 now. Because, well, a teacher said to me one day, "What are you doing here?" And that was a really good question because I had no idea. So I kind of began to think, like, I am wasting my time. I was doing, and this is a real mix, French, RE and biology. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to do an art or a science or what I wanted to do.
Oh, God.
So yeah, so I left and went to tech, and I did like a B Tech, and then I went to Queen's to do nursing. But still had this burning passion that whilst mental health was what I wanted to do, it just wasn't what I wanted to finish. So over the next 20 years, I did a degree in specialist nurse practice in forensic mental health, so working with people in prison, people in locked wards, and then I went on to do my CBT and then did a master's in it. So I am now officially making this gold standard. I'm not going back to university or anything ever again. So yeah, so I'm actually going to take these headphones off.
So you're really smart. That's what you're telling us.
Yeah.
You're really
No,
smart.
I take a long time to get there. Not really smart, but yeah, no. So I mean, it's been hard work. It's not been easy. So So I've been to Queen's, been to University of Ulster, and back to Queen's. For those things. So masters is where I ended up and where I will finish.
That's good.
Yeah, that's literally amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
The CBT.
Yeah.
What does it stand for again?
So cognitive behavioural therapy.
And
so
what is that?
Yeah. So the C is cognitive, which is like your thoughts and the behaviour, then what you're doing, and then the therapy, the bit I do. Yeah.
Well, I know, like, so especially towards the end of this year, during like the start of the year, I had like lost a bunch of friends. So I know, like, coming into school now, like, gives me like really bad like anxiety and stuff, and I get really anxious.
Could you
so,
explain
like,
anxiety?
Yeah, could you like explain
like why do people get it?
Yeah. So if you think about your brain, okay, so everybody thinks our brains, they are really intricate, right? But they're actually just a basic model, okay? So it's the first ever model out. Our brains don't have additional parts. We don't have spare parts. We don't have software upgrades. Our brains are our brains. So whenever the first person put foot on the earth, whenever that may have been, they were faced with things like saber-toothed tigers and big grizzly bears. I mean, that's my adaptation of the story. That might not be what they were faced with, but that's, if was a bear come into the room right now, we wouldn't sit there and go, "Oh, there's a bear." We like our brains would go, "It's a bear."
Where did it come from?
And they'd have to turn off the mics because we'd be screeching down the mics. So our brains are not primed to deal with danger. And the one and only task of your brain is not to remember, how to get dressed, who you're meeting, which social media platform to go on to, which homework you have to do. Our brains are primed for survival, full stop. So if our brains are only primed for survival, and then we go into situations which we're not used to, or we've had a bad experience in, then our brain, it's like there's a little bit in our brain called the amygdala, and I call it the meerkat. Okay, because I don't know if you watch Coronation Street, but with the meerkat, the start of it, like it's always looking around, it's always like looking for danger, it's always looking for information, and so our brains are like that. The amygdala's like that. It's like picking up the information. So if we heard a thud in here, we'd be like, "What is that?" But if that thud then kept on going, maybe every couple of minutes for the next hour, we'd be like, "Oh, for goodness sake, whoever's out there hammering, would you quit it?" You really would come on. Because our brains would start to get used to it. But the amygdala kind of goes like another part of the brain, which I call the filing cabinet, because that's easier for me to think than big words. And it sort of knocks on the door and is like, "Here, have you seen this or heard of this noise, or do you know what's happening here?" And the filing cabinet sometimes goes, yeah, it's fine, we've got a file in that's okay, that's the school gates, we're good with that. Oh, there's that teacher, okay, the file in that's not good, start to panic. So anxiety it's actually, whilst it creates a sense of worry, mostly anxiety will be experienced in a physical sense. So you might notice that you start to get a bit restless when you start to get anxious, or your heart races, or your tummy churns, or you sweat a little bit.
I cry.
Me
Or you
too.
cry.
I have panic attacks.
Yeah. So panic attacks are all those symptoms, and that is anxiety playing itself out through your body. So whenever we're anxious, we will feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like if my heart was racing or my tummy was feeling like wobbly, I wouldn't want to sit in that situation.
Yeah.
My brain's going, Deborah, get out of there. You're lucky I haven't run yet. But it would really be really start to make me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And whenever I start doing talks, like I might come across as this confident, therapist person. But actually, when I go to do public speaking, I talk like a washing machine for the first 5 minutes and full spin, because I'm like, if I get all the words out now, nobody, and that's how anxiety impacts us all. So first of all, anxiety is normal. And it's a process which, it's natural. Like it stops us from walking out in front of a bus.
Yeah.
You need anxiety, like you need
Yeah.
healthy anxiety. It stops us from doing something really dangerous, like, oh, that's warm, oh, I'll stick my hand in the fire, so it's there for hopefully don't stick your hands in the fire.
That's something you would do, Charlotte. When I was younger, I'd like grab the light bulb like a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So,
Shiny.
so anxiety is a body's natural response. And whenever the brain starts to engage with like, oh, there's something wrong. So if your heart starts racing, you start to think, oh, there must be something wrong, I'm having a heart attack. Or, oh my goodness, I'm going to be sick. So our brain starts to get involved in those lots of thoughts. And if there's a file in the filing system that says, this is a bad thing that happens to you. So if you go to school and you don't have as many friends in your friend group anymore, like some people will start to think like, I don't want to go to school today because what if my friend who I normally hang around with isn't in my class? And it's a conversation that I have a lot with teachers about, is that, anxiety is not something we can turn on, turn off. I often play with people and say, when we come into therapy, can you just switch that off? Can you just cheer up and stop worrying about things? I mean, can you just like, no? No. So realistically, like just saying to you, you've nothing to worry about, you've got loads of friends, is not going to help, is it? So when I'm in CBT, I'm trying to help people find the evidence to support that thought. So if there'll be nobody there for me, well then is there evidence to support that? Do you walk into the school and there's absolutely nobody there? Or is there always somebody you can talk to? Or can you sit beside someone else? Or what are the options? So anxiety can grab quite quickly and it's like a snowball. It rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls and becomes something bigger. And I suppose part of the stigma of mental health in the past number of years has been that people believe that once you have anxiety or once you're depressed, that's it.
Yeah.
But if you think about you keep hearing these words spectrums. So we've got autistic spectrum, we've got spectrums all over the place.
Me.
And I celebrate them. But mental health is like a spectrum. So it's like a sliding scale from left to right, from unwell to well. But also we've got like your well-being as well. So like being able to function to literally unable to function. So it's not that we're just sitting on a line or we've got a diagnosis and that is it, that's you done for. It's actually a sort of like a sliding scale that when you've got skills to manage it, you can actually do better with them.
Because there was a point towards the end of school, I hadn't done any of my work in maths and I could not bring myself to walk into her classroom for about a good 3 weeks. So I would find any excuse not to go to the class. Like I would go to like the wee hub that the Senko teachers are. Yeah. And for a bit they would let me come in and sit and they'd be like, right, she can stay, but then they were like, right, you need to go back to class. Like I actually, there was one day it was so bad, like I remember just sitting crying in the bathroom, like I can't go to the class. I signed myself out and sat in Asda for an hour and went straight back to school.
Yeah. Just to be able to do that. And that's the thing, I suppose, is that there's an awful lot of talk nowadays about school refusal, and I dislike the term a lot.
What
In fact,
is
I'll be
that?
Yeah, what is it?
So school refusal is like when people don't go to school, and obviously, like a lot of teachers think that's because they are refusing to go to school.
Yeah.
But when I see young people who are refusing to go to school, it is not that they're refusing to go to school; it's they physically can't
I
because
know
of anxiety.
so many people. One of my really good friends, she has such bad anxiety, and there will be days when, like, there'll be weeks when she just won't come in, and it's not that she's not bothering to come
it's
in.
not like she's
She
lazy.
can't come in,
Yeah, yeah,
and
so,
like, it's just the way that it is for her.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's happening a lot more, and I think that has happened as well to especially the years that have gone in around pandemic, where haven't been able to make friends properly, and maybe have an older sibling there, so that that's helpful in getting them in. But then if they don't have anything in the filing system to say, oh, this is an okay place to go.
Because schools just think school's only important because you're there for an education. That's it.
Yeah, get your grades and then you go.
But for the be there, because we're in from 9 to 3:40,
Yeah.
I would not be able to go in there if I didn't have like, even you.
Yeah, we're not
like,
in the same year, but
we're not in the same year. But see, any time that I feel lonely and my friends aren't in, I will go and find Katie, or Katie will come find me. Like, I could not get through school without having friends, because I think I would just go home.
Yeah, that's really important. It's really important to have people to kind of lean on, or
took
who
me a
know
while to
who get you.
Because this year was the year that I split up from my form class and went into all different classes with different people in my year. It took me till like December, January to even make friends in some of my classes. Like, I would get put beside people, wouldn't speak to them. And it would take a while for me to become friends with lots of people. So
Yeah. I think it's a hard one, isn't it? Yeah, and one that schools I think some schools are making some effort in that area, and it is a difficult thing for them to, and I suppose I always feel sorry for teachers too, because they were never trained to deal with,
yeah.
even their own anxiety, never mind, other people's as well. So, yeah.
What are your thoughts on like what social media can do to your mental health?
Do you want it as a mummy or as a therapist? Or
Both. Both.
My
Combined.
children will come in. No, so I might have controversial. Not parents are listening to this. Social media, I don't think is 100% either way. I think there's definite positives and definite kind of negatives.
Yeah.
So it depends on how long people are spending on social media. Like I, as a mummy, I have put restrictions on especially my youngest's phone. She's overridden them somehow, so I have to figure that one out. But I've put a restriction on your phone, and you're talking to someone. How did you do that? So it can become, like, I would notice in my own children whenever their moods would change if they've been on the phone or on TikTok or on Instagram or whatever it may be, whatever the latest, because nobody's on Facebook anymore, whatever the latest thing is, or Snapchat, and they're scrolling, and some of the stuff that comes up is quite toxic. I know some of the things that my youngest has come out with, I'm like, okay, where did you get that from? How do you know about that? Okay. And you think you've got all these restrictions on, and you find that maybe not some of the stuff that they're hearing or saying is not appropriate. And again, I bring it back to your brain and the stage of development. So there are things that, they might be saying that are creating other worries in your head. The other thing is as well, and this is when I come across as a really old person, because in my day, mobile phones came out, I can't even remember when, but I remember my first mobile phone was when I was 18. It was really cool. It was one of these Sony Ericssons, and there was like little things you could change the colours on. That was so cool. Nowadays, we've apps and everything. You could play Snake on it. That was it. It was one game. But it's, I suppose we depend on that. So the likes of, even coming here today, James would have said to me, come at 1:30, and I would have just had to arrive in the car park and hope that I recognised something that looked like where I was going. Instead, thankfully, I had James's number and he had mine, and that was fine. It was all good. But so, we used to say we'd arranged to meet someone, and that was it. And there was no kind of like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be 10 minutes late, or the anxiety of I can't be late for someone and what will happen if I'm late for them. Because so I think social media and phones, etc., are creating a little bit of anxiety where they don't need to. Also, you know, when we talk about bullying and bullying, some people see it as just teasing. Some people can recognise the effects of long-term name calling and pushing around, whether physical or whatever. But bullying goes on and on and on social media. And because we are, you know, brains can be a little bit immature in reading into something. If you're sent a message, you sometimes don't know how to take that. You know, so if you already have difficulties with your mood or difficulties with your anxiety, you might misread that, which then maybe you might not sleep. The number of young people that I've seen who have sat up to the early hours of the morning making sure a friend is okay, and that's not wrong, but it means that young people are taking on responsibilities far beyond what their brains can cope with. So I think social media is good in a way, in that it can help us learn new things. It can, I mean, I get recipes from it all the time. Don't necessarily cook them, but you know, I get them. You know, I love watching mindless stuff. I don't go onto TikTok because I know that if I step into TikTok, I'm closing down the
We're
business.
really bad for TikTok.
Because I'll be on it all day.
But see, what we like to do is we'll like FaceTime, like chat, and we'll, as every single TikTok we watch, we'll like tell each other what it was about.
Yeah.
And that's, like,
or like we'll send it to
each other if they're
There's
funny.
another one of our friends, Lauren's not here.
Yeah. We would always sit and call, and like I go on Instagram Reels and I just start sending them both to.
But there was a time when I would send her like TikToks every day, and she didn't open them for about a week. There was like 70
like 80
TikToks, 70 TikToks for her to watch, and she actually sat through and watched every single one of them.
Yeah, I think there's benefits to it, and it's like, so there is connection in it. Often I've got people, so I would also work with people with ADHD or autism, and often parents are saying to me they need to get out of their room. They're always on their games, and yeah, certainly, you know, gaming can have a positive and a negative effect. And what I'm looking for is what's the balance. So if you're on social media and you've got a balance in your life where you're coming out to things like this, and you've got, you know, a couple of days or a couple of nights a week where you're really busy and it's downtime for you, then that's okay, it's healthy.
That's
but
what I see it as. That's what I tell my mum.
now, when it tips into hours in a night and homework hasn't been done, then the mummy of me would step in and go, and you know, but to know that there's positives if you struggle socially, and that is your medium for connecting with people, then it's not necessarily wrong, but as long as it's used in measured, you know, ways, and it doesn't take over your life. Whenever one of my kids was younger, I have two children who are autistic, and one of them would be repeating what they seen or heard, and became some of the time of like, are we having a conversation that's real life here, or am I in an episode of something, or what is this, you know? So sometimes it can be difficult for brains to process. So social media is good in small measures. It helps us learn lots of things, it helps us connect, but it can increase anxiety, and I wouldn't say it's the cause of mental health problems. I would just say it doesn't make them any better. Does that make sense?
With like talking about like people with like autism and ADHD, have you ever like, do you notice if like people with mental health issues are usually like on the like neurodivergent? Like, would you ever say that it's more people who are like autistic have mental health issues, or like less?
I'm probably, I don't know whether I would have a number for that, but I think what I do recognise is it's it depends what message that person has been given. So often I would see adults who come to therapy who all their life have been told you can't cope. You need help all of the time. You need to have someone with you all of the time. And certainly one of my children still is going into year 14 and still has a full-time assistant with them. That's not because they can't cope. That's because it's helpful to them. So I always come from the message of it's not that you can't cope, it's we're enhancing the skills that you've got and developing some more. But an awful lot of our adults currently, well, some of them have gone through life without having a diagnosis, and all of a sudden have been diagnosed, and it's like a big wet rag to the face. Like, what's that? What's happened? I've just been me all my life, and all of a sudden someone's telling me there's a difference here. And yeah, so I suppose because neurodiversity makes you experience the world differently, and because a little bit like mental health, there's still a stigma. People still don't understand it. You know, people saying, "Oh, we're all on the spectrum a little bit." We can argue that bit out some other time. You know, it's like saying to someone, "I've got a little bit of OCD." That's really insulting to the person who has that condition, because you can't have a little bit of something.
You either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's, like, on the spectrum, like, there's different ranges, but, like...
It's either you're on the spectrum or you're not.
Yeah. You're never going to, like... You're never going to have a little bit of autism. Like, you're not going to have that. You're going to have it or you don't.
Yeah, because I know I'm not... Well, as far as I'm aware, I'm not on the spectrum.
I am.
But, like, I don't understand how people can say, like, oh, I'm, like, a little bit autistic. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like,
yeah, I think...
why you would say it?
I think for some people, they think because they see traits. So, like, you know, my two children in particular, you know, one of them likes to be very, very well organised. The other one not so much. And the neurotypical one, definitely not. But, you know, that's how they like to function. They like to function because they like to have certainty. They like to have... you know what's happening. Now, that is one thing that I have noticed over the past couple of years is that those who are neurodivergent will also have things like generalized anxiety and social anxiety as almost like hand in hand, because you're already... So generalized anxiety is about being able to tolerate uncertainty. So if people in life can't...
I can't do that. I can't do that.
Although my husband and I had this conversation that no young person can tolerate uncertainty, but that's another discussion. But I think that because of how we are nowadays, because everything is ready and it's there and it's on demand, and we've grown a society that begins to expect that. So when there's a note of like uncertainty, then it's like, how do I deal with this? I don't know what to do here. So the reality is that for young people on the spectrum, or even with ADHD, they would experience a lot of uncertainty, right from how am I going to get up in the morning? Will I get washed first? Will I get dressed first? What will I have for breakfast? Who will take me to school?
Like, everything I'm always like, how do I do this? What do I do? Like, it's always little things as well.
Yeah.
Like, I was literally trying to order stuff on Shein the other day. I was like, I don't know how to pick between these two things. I don't know how to... Like, do I order it now so it comes next week, or do I wait a week and then it'll come closer to my holiday? Yeah. Like, everything, I'm always like...
It's hard to make a decision. So
I know whenever I was saying about school and friends, that's, like, what, like, really scares me is, like... So, like, our school do these things where it's like, oh, they'll have a Friday off, blah, blah, blah. And I used to get told that stuff by my friends. And it's like, they're not there to tell me that anymore. So it's like, what if this is happening and I don't know about it? And what if this is happening, I don't know about it? And that's what, like, scares me.
Yeah. And that's, like, generalised kind of anxiety of everything's what-ifing. And so if you imagine the what-ifing, like getting on a rocking chair, and I don't know about you, but if I get a rocking chair, I don't go too far, just back and forward, and you go back and forward, that worry, but what happens with it? It's still there. But what's happening is your body's starting to react to that, and you're starting to get really anxious about it. And then what are you going to do? Well, probably not go to school just in case, or else seek reassurance, or constantly contact someone. Like, what, are you sure? Are you definitely sure? Definitely sure. Yeah. You know, so it kind of help. So I think generalized anxiety is something that we'll probably see more of, because of, let's face it, you know, like 4 or 5 years ago, okay, I as part of my job, you know, I talk to people about what's the worst that could happen, okay, and how likely is that it's going to happen. Yeah. And then we had a global pandemic, and how many years had I told people with health anxiety, like, really, do you know, what's the worst that could happen?
A global pandemic.
And then a global pandemic, and I'm like, thanks for that one, that was really helpful. Hoping that nobody comes asking for their money back. But, you know, so you're like, we've now had a situation where we've all been thrown into uncertainty. And, like, even I, as a therapist who knew how to deal with uncertainty, decided not to really face up to it, and I went back to doing my nursing. Because then I was like, well, I know what I'm doing. I know that I can obviously be a nurse, and I can help the health service, and I know where I am from this time to this time. And I actually did night shift so that I didn't have to be awake during the day and then face the uncertainty of what will we do today. So like even as a, someone who knows all the lingo and how to do it, I still indulged in those behaviours because it was easier.
Yeah.
So.
Well, me and Charlotte were sort of stuck in the impossible page, and I saw that there was a bit on phobias. Would you deal with like phobias and stuff?
Yes.
What's
What
what
kind of phobias?
Like, what's the most common phobia?
At the minute, we've got an increase in dog phobias. I know, and you're like, oh, but I love dogs.
I do get it though.
that.
Yeah,
big dogs scare me sometimes.
But so we've got like young children who maybe haven't been out as much around parks, and then they've gone out and all of a sudden their dog's bigger than, or even not even just like dogs like running fast at me. And I think there's definitely a change in people like don't feel like they need to keep their dogs on a lead when they're out.
Yeah.
So then children are getting more anxious. Fear of being sick, fear of vomiting is one.
We were talking about that.
We both have that.
I haven't thrown up since I was 4.
Okay.
It scares me so much.
We went
like
on, we went on a trip last week to Dublin Zoo, and there was a kid downstairs, and we were all downstairs, all the older ones, but there was a kid downstairs. She was at the back. I didn't know what she was like. I was upstairs. James was behind me, and I was We were on a bus,
a double-decker bus,
and so the wee girl was downstairs. She was crying. In my eyes, she was about to be sick all over the bus. I was upstairs on the bus. You were downstairs.
I was downstairs in the corner.
I was sobbing. I was shaking. I thought I was gonna throw up because of how scared I was. But it's because I was standing up, and all these like. So I'm 15. All the kids that were on the bus upstairs were like 8 and 9, and they were all staring at me, and I was like, "She's gonna be sick. She's gonna be sick."
I wasn't told, and I'm glad I wasn't told. I wasn't told to be got off the bus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she got off the poor wee girl got off the bus and she sprinted.
She ran off the bus.
Oh, bless her.
I stayed away from her. I don't.
So fear of being sick is another one that has become more common. I haven't really seen very many people. It used to be like fear of spiders and fear of flying was two of the big ones. But
fear of flying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
So yeah, we do lots of phobias. So we've had some people have fear of driving. So that's been really interesting because
I get that.
part of the way we deal with it is called exposure.
Drive a car.
So we pretty much. So we gradually kind of build up your tolerance to that. So I wouldn't bring you in the first day and say, right, we need you to be sick. I wouldn't need you to be sick at all during therapy, just to be clarifying that. But we gradually like introduce like what you're afraid of, and we work on what we call a hierarchy, so like a ladder. Of like what's the least thing you're afraid of to the worst bit of it. And so we've had lots of success with that. So yeah, phobias.
Yeah, because I know with me, even like the sound of people being sick, the thought of people being sick, or spiders as well. I'm really bad with spiders. There was a spider in my room about like a month ago. I didn't sleep in my room for a week.
I remember that.
And my dad got it out. I watched him get it out, but I just wouldn't. I couldn't.
But then there's people like our friend Sophie. She was
a spider crawled across her
while she was in bed.
She slept in it.
And she just flicked her bed sheets and went to sleep. And it happened 2 nights later as well. The same exact thing happened. Yes. A spider crawled over her leg.
It was all called to us, and I was like,
no, she scares me.
Yes, well, one of my friends as a therapist, she kept the spider in a wee container and fed it so that she could bring it in for one of her therapy sessions.
I would not come back. I'd want my money back.
Yeah, I would have left. I'd be like, why you showed me this?
Yeah. So yes, we deal with phobias, but we gradually help you become less and less afraid.
How would you help with the sick one? How would you help with that?
By gradually introducing you to maybe images of vomit, and then gradually noises, and then gradually videos of people being sick, and then maybe if we're really, really, really working well, actually pretending to be sick ourselves. But it works really well. When it's done. But yeah, it does sound a little bit.
It's really scary.
I tried to push that fear aside. There was one time a couple of years ago, I was out with my friends and one of them felt sick, so I went to hold her hair back, and I was doing well until she gagged and I dropped all her hair and I ran away.
Yeah, mental note, not be sick today. Yeah, so phobias is a big thing. But actually, I think from the past 2 years, there's been fewer phobias than there would have been prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Did you find anything else when you stalked the page?
PTSD. I saw that. I saw PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Do you get a lot of that?
Yeah, we do. And that's hard for people because that's often where the brain is constantly throwing back images, or they're having dreams or nightmares about something bad that happened. And that's because the brain, it's like if you imagine like in the bit where all the emotions come in and all this kind of memories start off before they're filtered through to the filing system. It's because those memories, those things that have happened are too big. The brain can't necessarily process it, so it needs to sort of be broken down. And so it gets stuck. And so it's almost like it's sitting at the front of your mind, because every time something happens, it triggers it and brings it back up again. So again, it's about working through a process of helping someone safely relive what happened, and then breaking down the power of it, whilst making it go into the filing system. So it's not like people come and we wipe their memory and that goes away.
No more PTSD.
Yeah, it's more about that thing will still have happened. They'll still remember it, but the emotional content and the impact,
process it.
yeah, will not be as big. Yeah.
I also saw. I'm trying to
the depression bit.
Yeah,
where
I
you
did see that.
help people with their depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I suppose, do you ever be to Barry's? Yes. It's now Curry's, whatever it's called.
Barry's. It's always Barry's.
Always Barry's to the end of the day. And outside there's a big slide that's called the Helter Skelter.
No,
it kind
I
of goes
hate
round.
that. It scares me. I don't know why.
So,
it just does.
So I would talk about depression being like that, like you're kind of at the top and all of a sudden things start to change. And then quite quickly you kind of spiral down, losing interest, motivation, energy, concentration, all of that. And then you kind of find yourself at the bottom going, I just don't have the energy or the interest or anything to do anything. So in CBT we work towards getting people back to doing things until they kind of learn that they enjoy it again. So depression's another one.
I saw a section on low self-esteem. I feel like that would be common. But just want.
Yeah. So a lot of whenever I'm working with adults especially, I would actually from my own understanding and sometimes with them in the room, work through the model of low self-esteem, because it makes a lot of sense. And I think that a lot of mental health conditions can be explained by, first of all, there being low self-esteem. Because if you don't have a feeling of self-worth or you have low self-esteem, then you're not going to feel very confident in how you manage things. And so social anxiety, generalized anxiety, depression, all of those things.
Have you noticed, is it more younger people or not older people, but young people? Do you notice an age
for low self-esteem?
For low self-esteem, depression, just anxiety.
Anything you can think of.
Okay. So at the minute, definitely, I would say that there is definite increase in low self-esteem, perfectionism, and social anxiety in young people. In adults, low self-esteem, generalized anxiety, and OCD would be the biggies that we're seeing a lot of people present with, and partly maybe because they've had time to spend with themselves over a pandemic, where they've been like, okay, so yep, I haven't been able to do my normal go to work, stay there at 10 o'clock at night and come home and be exhausted. So young people would say there's definite increase in social anxiety, low self-esteem and perfectionism. Yeah. And of course, low self-esteem fuels perfectionism, and perfectionism fuels low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Bit of a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Well, I know this just came into my mind. I'm really weird with this. So I could talk to somebody I've never met, fine. But see, when I'm talking to people I know, or that I have to not have to, but I talk to every day, I get so much more nervous and so much more scared. For example, when I I could give a speech to people that I've never met before, but if I have to perform something in front of my class, it's no. And it's I can't, because I remember one day I was in English and we had to do a presentation, and I knew exactly what I was going to say. I had everything, I'd memorised it, and I was confident in what I was going to say, and I went up there and I just froze and I started crying and ran out.
But then here we're telling you
Yeah,
how much we cry in our life.
telling you all my problems. I've never met you.
It's okay. I have a tattoo to my forehead. Tell me everything. You just can't see it. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing is that, and it's about the difference. So like when you walk into like a room full of people that you don't know, like what's the biggie if you make a mistake in front of them? Are you going to see them again?
That's what freaks me out. Like, in a room full of people, yes, they don't know me, but what if they remember me as, oh, she's the girl that messed up a speech in front of us? Like, that's what's always in my mind.
Sometimes, like, this might seem like a brutal way to approach it, but sometimes, when you think about the number of people that other people encounter, you know, I sometimes find it useful, even with myself, to think like, what makes you think you're so special that they're going to remember you?
Yeah.
That's what I say to myself. And sometimes I would say to people, was there something that you really did? Like, was it just that you missed a few words? I mean, I've minced my words about 10 times already.
We've just started pausing.
And you just haven't put me out yet.
We haven't noticed.
But see, that's the thing, so it's more about your attention is internal. Your attention is on you. What will people think of me? What am I doing? What are they saying? But I guarantee you, if you change your focus of attention to what's going on around you, you will notice less and feel less anxious about it.
Because I know I remember things like that I've done that like, and I'll talk to somebody who was there and they'll be like, that never happened. Like, I don't remember you messing up this. And I was like, but I messed up this and I messed up this. And they're like, nobody noticed. I didn't notice. Like, I had no clue that was even meant to be like that. Yeah. And I'm like,
especially within our performing arts. Like,
yeah, so we do performing arts. We do musicals, singing, all that jazz.
My biggest fear is acting, like, because I can sing. Well, I can sing. I can dance. They're my two strongest, and I like take pride in those. You'll never acting scares me. Like, I will get up on a stage. Like, I've got up in front of our whole class, and I have taught dances. But even like when we're doing group stuff, I'll sit there with a blank expression. I will look miserable and I'll say my lines over and over again until I force myself to act, because it scares me to act. But then when we did our showcase on Saturday, I had to sing a song from Frozen. So I was told, be princessy.
Yeah, she was Anna.
I skipped around that stage. I was jumping. I was twirling.
It was amazing.
So,
and I'd be like that, except for singing. There's been countless times that Charlotte can vouch for me.
She just gets up and walks out.
I've messed up a note. I haven't.
She hasn't.
I just started crying and ran out. I remember there's one time I was done in, we have a different studio bit, and we were all singing, and I got up to sing this song from Bonnie and Clyde, Down It's So Bad, and I was singing it was fine, and then I got to like the high bit and I just started crying and I ran out.
I was like, is that how it's supposed to end?
Yeah.
But it sounded so good.
Everyone was sitting on the sofa and like our director Lisa, she was like, no one go after her, and I was just sitting out. I was sitting outside and I was like, what did I do? It was so embarrassing. It wasn't embarrassing.
Everything
like, people were more concerned for me, the fact that I ran out.
Yeah.
No, like, nobody cared if I even did mess up.
Yeah. Because it was what you thought, it was what you felt inside, and so you were focused on you, but not like that actually everybody was sitting going, oh my goodness, that was amazing, she's amazing, she's wonderful. So it's about, like, and I teach people to look outside of themselves, and like if you're walking, like, I'm sure you're one of these young people that plays yellow car.
She on the way here, she literally punched me and said yellow car.
Yeah. So I guarantee you, if you now on your way home tonight look for red cars, all you will see is red cars, not yellow cars.
No, you're not.
So you'll literally be, your brain will be trained, because your focus of attention is on that thing that you're looking for, or look for a Qashqai, or look for an Audi or something that you're just kind of, your brain will see them. You're going to see red Audis and Qashqais all the way home. But you'll be like, oh, she was right. So whenever you go into something like that, it's about changing your focus of attention to something else in the room. And that's what I tend to do when I'm doing talks, is although I start off on a bit of a fast speed, I then pick, okay, like, look at that thing on the wall and keep yourself there. What is it? That's nice. That's a nice shape. That's a nice colour. Actually, it's the same colours as my logos. I like that. And then I don't get stuck in the, oh my goodness, is my heart racing? Am I going to be sick? Oh, am I going to say something stupid? And maybe I have, but sure, I don't know. I'm not worrying about it.
Yeah.
So I know we were talking about, whoa.
I'm wrecking the house.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
Told you would break the place, didn't I?
Anyways, we were talking about panic attacks earlier. Would you have any like techniques of how to like not stop them, because like you can't really stop them, but like to
You can't stop them.
well
Yeah, how do you stop
how do you
them?
stop them?
Because
Please tell me.
So whenever I talked earlier on about your anxiety and the amygdala and all of that, whenever that process happens and the anxiety starts to rise, the brain sends a signal to the kind of survival part of it to say, here, we're in danger here, we need to get out of there. So you've heard of fight or flight?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically it sends adrenaline and cortisol into your body, to your muscles, to get you out of the situation, because like nobody wants to stand looking at this grizzly bear here. So what it does is it sends, high levels of adrenaline and cortisol into your brain or into your body, and then that's the blood that's pumping around your body that needs to get it to your muscles, and the blood has to have oxygen in it, so we have to breathe faster, and so off it goes. And then our tummies start to get funny because our digestive system is not what we call an important component of our bodies whenever it's not, what was that term I would use, essential worker. So it gets furloughed. So basically it gets shut down while we're in a bit of a panic stations. And the system that's kind of going then is called our sympathetic nervous system. So in biology, you'll like see in your biology exams, don't be writing about meerkats and filing systems, okay? I'll be getting in trouble. But your system is going a dinger, and every time your brain engages with another symptom, it starts sending more adrenaline and more cortisol. So your body's starting to really, really get really agitated and really restless. So the sympathetic nervous system is going a dinger. But what we need is like kind of, do you know whenever you go on an escalator, there's like a red button?
Yeah.
So we need a red button to slow it down. And so what happens is if you're breathing really, really fast, you're only getting in oxygen, and you're not letting enough of it out. So you're now gasping. And so you're breathing from your throat instead of your tummy. Okay. So whenever you're next having a panic attack or you feel anxious, I want you to do, so you can do it different ones. I'm sure school has taught you and you've heard them in different places. So you've got square breathing, you've got circular breathing, you've got you can do mindful breathing, or you can do what I call the 4-7-7-4, and that's where you breathe in. Okay, so you're breathing in through your nose. Now I can't talk and do it at the same time, but you two can do it along with me if you want. So breathe in through your nose, okay, right, until your tummy is blown up like a really, really big hot air balloon. Okay, now hold it. And then I want you to slowly blow it out through your mouth like you're blowing bubbles, not your birthday cake, but bubbles, okay? So you're blowing the best bubbles ever until your tummy's nice and flat again. Okay, and just let it go. And do the same again, in through your nose. And hold it. And I knew you were into that. But what did that do to your brain? What did that do to your system?
Just like it's calmed.
Yeah, that's the red button. So say when you're having a panic attack, see if you do 3 or 4 of those breaths, I will guarantee you that you'll calm down. So you practice that every day. Every day, practice that, because that is, and that's a tool that you have everywhere. Like, it's not something that you have to have in your pocket or something else. It's a tool. Now I've made poor Sharon go to sleep because she's so relaxed. But it's something that's there. We can breathe. So the breathing technique, whatever way you do it. So people talk about square breathing, so you can Google it, and it's just like you breathe, following the sides of a square.
I was going to say triangle too.
Yeah. I was trying not to say rectangle, but then I went triangle. So the square. Or you can do, there's a mindful exercise where you breathe in as you go up your thumb and breathe out. And you breathe in and breathe out. And as you do that, the thing about it is our brain cannot hold 2 thoughts at the same time. So it can't go, I'm panicking and I'm okay. Okay? So if we make the I'm okay bigger, the panic has to settle itself a bit.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
You can let me.
Yeah. It's actually really so
Cool.
smart.
Helpful.
Helpful, yeah.
Cool.
Coping mechanisms. Let's talk coping mechanisms. Well, I know for me, drama and singing and performing arts just in general would be something I would use to sort of like sorry, it's so nothing, never mind. Sort of
Now you're making me feel anxious.
Just James. Just James.
That's okay. He's not there. That's okay.
Hello. I forgot what I was saying now. What was I
Coping
saying? Coping
mechanisms.
mechanisms. Yeah. I would use like drama and singing and acting and stuff to like calm myself down and just.
I eat like my comfort foods
Yes, that's good. That helps.
because I only eat the same like.
She's a very picky eater.
Yeah, I blame the autism, but I only do eat like the same 4 foods. So when I'm like stressed, noodles
love
and
noodles.
pasta, I will make that and I will sit in my room with my duvet over me, and I will watch something and I'll just sit and eat and I'll chill or I'll go to sleep.
I have a really bad thing where like I can't stop. Like, see, it's really bad at the moment. I can't stop watching kids shows and wanting to like do kid things. Like, well, this is kind of the Barbies movie's fault, but I really want to play with Barbies again. Like, after I see the Barbie movie, I want to play with my Barbies.
There are so many little Barbies out there,
Where
though.
are my Barbies? That's what
Yeah,
my
that's-
question
that's
is.
my-
Where have they gone?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember ever getting rid of them.
Oh, my other cook mechanism is dyeing my hair. I don't know why I didn't
She
think
does
of it.
that a lot.
It's very bad.
That's meant to be blue.
That's meant. Well, like
What?
Yeah,
It is blue.
My daughter's was
this
teal.
this
before.
time last year, because I have the front of my hair's bleached. Like my money pieces, they were pink last year. They went orange. A couple months before I put the bleach in, my whole head was pink, and then it went ginger. So I went, but it wasn't like a nice color of ginger. It was like
Okay.
You
corally,
looked fine. You looked amazing.
and it's been blue before. It's the whole head's been pink. So I just decided I was gonna dye the underneath part blue. Just whenever
And
I'm
then she complains
feeling.
about it to me. She's like,
She
I
wants to
dyed
be a
my
mermaid.
hair. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots of people have different coping mechanisms. For me, it's like sitting, reading a book, or trying to gain 10 minutes silence somewhere. So my neighbours would often say, you spend an awful lot of time in your car. So I would drive home from work and sit outside in the car for 20 minutes, just sitting quietly. Because I know once I open the door, that's not going to be quiet, and that I'm not going to get that space to do that. So I read or I crochet.
My mum crochets.
Yeah. And it's not knitting for anybody who thinks it's knitting.
Yes,
It's
it's
definitely
not.
crocheting.
It's different.
things.
It's a different skill. So yes, that's what I would do. But lots of people have different things, and as long as it's helpful to you, then it's good.
Yeah, because I know, as you said, sit in the car. I would sit in the room or my mum's car sometimes and just play music. Like I love music and just listening to music.
Music's
Like you don't even have to
another
do
one.
anything. Just lie there and just
Yeah.
listen to music, and it's great.
Yeah. Music's one of our things in our house too. Mostly musicals.
Yes.
Full blast. And
Mine
I'm like the
too.
neighbours.
Hard too.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
this has been really helpful and a really good, probably the best podcast
Yeah.
we'll do.
Yeah. You've been amazing.
That's good. Well, thank you for having me, because it's really brave of you both to kind of want to ask questions about it and to
Yeah.
kind of stand up for it. It's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
here.
thank
and
you.
letting us ask you questions.
No problem. No problem.
It's been great. Might have to get myself a therapy session now.
I nearly booked myself in. We were stalking the website.
By accident, she accidentally.
I don't know what I did. I just clicked on something and then I was like signing in.
Like a list
I was
or
like,
something.
I'll see how the talk goes and then I'll maybe sign myself in.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fine. I'll know your name's coming. No, that's cool. Thank you for having me. It's good.
But yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.